Hey, how's it going, everyone? Welcome to Shifting Lanes. My name is Hanson. Thank you so much for tuning in, and for this video I'm sitting in the 2021 Mazda 6 Carbon Edition, and I'm here to share with you my likes and dislikes about this car so that you have a better idea before you buy. The Carbon Edition is simply an appearance package added to the Grand Touring Reserve trim. So it has a unique polymetal gray paint, black side view mirrors, black wheels, black deck lid spoiler, and red leather seats. The Carbon Edition is new for 2021, and it simply makes the already attractive looking Mazda 6 look more stealthy on the outside and a touch more luxurious on the inside. They've also released the Carbon Edition for the CX-5 and CX-9 models as well, which sees the same type of upgrades that you'll find in here. Let's start with the interior first because I really enjoy sitting inside the Mazda 6. If you put a piece of tape over the badge on the steering wheel, you might think that you're sitting in a luxury branded car. The feel of the leathers on the seats and the steering wheel is high quality. The surfaces on the dash are nicely padded, and I really like the look of the metallic trim across the door cards and the dash. It makes the interior design more minimalist, futuristic, and concept car-like. It's hard to ignore the red leather in here, and going with the Carbon Edition is the only way to get these red seats. They're quite supportive and they feel pretty plush, and I also like that the driver's side has an 8-way power adjustment and the passenger side has a 6-way power adjustment. Now these seats are also both heated and ventilated, and you can find those buttons on the HVAC controls. And you'll see that there's also an added bonus of heated steering wheel as well. Speaking of steering wheel, I really like the quality of it. The steering effort is on the heavier side. It feels like you're steering a BMW as opposed to a Lexus. But overall, the steering feel and feedback is very good, and I'll go more into that later on. I do prefer the design of the newer Mazda steering wheels. However, if you check out my review of the new Mazda 3 or the Mazda CX-30, you'll find a different design steering wheel that looks a lot slimmer and looks like a throwback to old classic car steering wheels. This one is a bit on the chunky side. Looking straight ahead, you'll find a simple 3-gauge instrument cluster. The right one is a display of your driving aids. The digital display gives it a slightly more modern look, though it's a shame that Mazda doesn't have a fully digital instrument cluster display yet. But that may change very shortly because there's a picture floating around on the internet of a new fully digital instrument cluster, and I can't wait for that to come out. Looking up from the instrument cluster and straight ahead, you'll find the heads-up display, and you can find this starting from the Grand Touring Reserve trim and up. An extra handy feature on that heads-up display is that it'll also show you the blind spot warning information. So if there's a car in your blind spot, not only will you get a nice little light on the side view mirror, but you'll also get a small little icon on the heads-up display. And speaking of blind spot monitoring system, let's talk about the technology found in this car, because there's a good amount to make this into a really good daily driver. Now, the technology related to safety, there's the blind spot monitoring system, there's rear cross traffic alert, there's also adaptive cruise control, and there's lane departure warning. Now, the lane departure warning is only a warning system, and it will slightly change the steering a bit to keep you centered in the lane slightly, but I don't find it good enough to help you steer through gentle curves. If you want to see what a more advanced system looks like, you should take a look at my reviews of the Volvos that we've driven on this channel. Their pilot assist system is pretty rock solid if the weather's good, and you can learn more about that in the links below or up here. When it comes to technology with respect to convenience and comfort, the Mazda 6 is also pretty good, and my most favorite feature in this car is wireless Apple CarPlay. Not a lot of cars have this capability just yet. BMW have had it for several years, and other car companies are slowly incorporating this into their cars. Now, I'm a huge fan of Apple CarPlay, but the thought of pulling out your phone, plugging it in every time you get into your car is kind of a hassle. First world problems, I know, but having wireless Apple CarPlay means that it's just so much more convenient to get access to your phone in the car. And because it's more convenient means that you're going to be using it more often. And that's a good thing because the infotainment system in this car is not that great. This is their older Mazda Connect layout, and the performance of it is on the sluggish side. Even though the rest of the car feels pretty attractive and high quality, the infotainment feels and looks very last generation and substandard. If you want to see what Mazda's new infotainment looks like, please check out my review of the Mazda CX-30. that interface looks a lot cleaner and performs better. This one still has touchscreen capability, but the new infotainment system does not. You may also find that the newer infotainment systems can be found in cars that have redesigned interior, so the screens will be placed further away and more in the driver's point of view so that your eyes don't have to deviate as much from the road. If having a touchscreen is important for you, then perhaps that could be a good selling point for the Mazda 6, but just be aware that once you start driving, the touchscreen is going to be disabled, at which point you're going to have to rely on the rotary knob here. And I like this a lot. This is a good input system, and I consider it to be more safe than a touchscreen. This is a lot like BMW's iDrive system, and the shortcut buttons here are helpful so you don't have to struggle through all the different sub-menus on the screen. And that's a great thing because the user interface of the Mazda infotainment system here isn't the most straightforward. As for interior comfort and cargo space, this is slightly smaller when compared with other midsize sedans. There's a decent amount of rear legroom at 38.7 inches. However, the trunk's capacity is slightly on the smaller side with 14.7 cubic feet. As for the exterior of the Mazda 6, the shape is beautiful. A big grille is all the rage nowadays, and the Mazda 6's gaping mouth looks attractive here, especially when it's flanked by the scowling headlights, which can actually pivot while you're steering. There's also a decent amount of chrome, which I don't normally like, but it actually works with the Mazda 6's face. I just wish that given the carbon black trim appearance package, I think it would have looked better if the chrome was blacked out as well. I also like how the front fender is very sculpted and bulged out. It's reminiscent of vintage cars from the 1940s where bulging fenders were everywhere. I think it works quite well here, and it's one of the features that really helped the Mazda 6 stand out against the crowd. The profile and rear of the car, however, doesn't look as interesting. It's not ugly, but nothing too memorable either. Now on to the more important features of the Mazda 6, and really the reason why you should buy the car is how it drives. The Carbon Edition, again, is an appearance package only, but it builds on the Grand Touring Reserve trim, which has a 2.5 liter turbo engine inside, making 250 horsepower and 320 pound-feet of torque. That is a lovely amount of power for a mid-size sedan, and when coupled to the 6-speed automatic transmission, it behaves pretty eagerly too. There's a sport mode dial in here which will let you hang on to the revs a bit more, and there's also paddle shifters behind the steering wheel if you feel like shifting yourself. The lower Mazda 6 trims has a naturally aspirated 2.5 liter engine, which has an okay 187 horsepower and 186 pound-feet of torque. Clearly that engine isn't as exciting as this one because that turbo really makes this feel like a proper luxury car that not only looks good, but is also pretty damn quick too. And it's a good thing that there's a nice engine under that hood because it makes the Mazda 6 one of the nicest driving sedans out there that you can buy right now. And obviously I can't show it to you right now because of the weather conditions, but take my word for it, this is a really fun car to drive. The 6 feels like a proper sports sedan where the combination of the higher damping steering and nice firm suspension combines to give you a pretty communicative chassis. There's good feedback between the road and the driver where you feel more engaged while driving. The car feels pretty planted when you're going through the curves, and there's also not a lot of body roll involved. A lot of midsize sedans focus more on comfort, whereas the Mazda 6 encourages you to drive it hard. The more I spend time in this car, the more it's telling me to drive more, and I like that. As for pricing, the Mazda 6 Carbon Edition starts at just under $33,000. That's fairly pricey and should be compared to other midsize sedans in the higher end trims, like an Accord EXL, a Camry XLE V6, or a Hyundai Sonata Limited, just to name a few. But all things considered, I think that's a decent price considering how luxurious it feels to be in here. Seriously, sitting inside, cover up that badge, it feels like you're sitting in a $45,000 to $50,000 car. So do I recommend the Mazda 6? Yes, absolutely. The driving dynamics alone makes me want to buy this thing. This is a very fun car to drive. The interior is also beautiful to look at, and the build quality and feel is also very good. It's not perfect though. The infotainment system is regrettably old, and it's missing some neat features that you can normally find in other cars at this price range, like a fully digital instrument cluster display and a bigger panoramic sunroof. But overall, this sedan is a treat, and I think you should buy it because sedans are becoming extinct, and I don't think this world needs any more crossovers. Well, there you have it. That's my review of the 2021 Mazda 6 Carbon Edition. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you've learned something from this video, please consider hitting that like, subscribe, and notification bell buttons so that you can be notified anytime we make a new video. I'll wrap it up right there. My name is Hanson, and this has been the 2021 Mazda 6 Carbon Edition. I'll see you next time.